And welcome back for another edition of the Get Stuck on Sports Thumb Coast TV edition. I'm your host, Dennis Stuckey. Hopefully the crew has recovered from my off-air jokes. All right, we've got a lot to cover on the program. We're going to start with the boys basketball districts. They were going on all week last week, and there were some interesting results going on, some really exciting and some kind of disappointing. We'll start in Division I. This district was over at Dakota High School in the opening round. Port Huron High really played a strong game against L'Anse Creuse. Just came up a bucket short, losing 50-48 in that game. If it's any consolation, L'Anse Creuse went on to play Dakota and got beat by 50 points. So the second game was going to be a tough one regardless. L'Anse Creuse North beat Anchor Bay 67-38. And then on Wednesday, they met up with Port Huron Northern. This was a rematch of last year's district in the championship game. They meet in a semifinal this year, but the result is the same. The Huskies come close, but they can't get over the hump and get to the district final, and they lose 69-63 in this one to L'Anse Creuse North, and their season comes to a rather disappointing end because, again, this was the final try for this group with Amir Moreland and Alex Jamison and Cam Haryu to try to win a district, and they will not be able to get that done now as this was, of course, their senior year. In Division II, over in Yale, North Branch and Elmont went to overtime on Monday night, with North Branch winning 68-65, but the Broncos season came to an end on Wednesday when the favorite in the tournament, Yale, picked up a 47-33 win to advance to the finals. The other game on Wednesday night was a thriller between Croslex and Imlay City. It didn't start that way. Imlay City was up 17 at the half, and Croslex came storming back to win the game 63-57 in overtime. It was the third time this year the Pioneers erased a double-digit deficit in the second half to beat Imlay City. They just had their number this year, and that set up a Yale-Croslex final. Croslex had won the first time the two teams met this season, coming from behind at Yale to win in overtime, and Yale had blown them out a week earlier in Croslex to earn a share of the BWAC title. So these are the co-BWAC champs meeting to decide who is the best team between them, and on this night, it was definitely Yale. They dominated by a score of 54-28. Croslex was up 16-8 in the second quarter with 5:21 to play. Yale took a timeout, and out of that timeout, they held the Pioneers scoreless for over 19 minutes and went on a 30-0 run and ended up winning the game in a landslide. Jackson Kohler had 22 points. He hit 5 threes in the game, and they were all just daggers. Every time he knocked down a three, it sucked the life out of the Pioneers. Max Knoll had 17. Yale moves on to a regional. Talk about that in just a moment. Also in D2, over at Marine City, I saw the first 2 rounds in this district before going to that Yale-Croslex game on Friday night. But on Monday, Marysville beat Algonac 67-42. Pretty routine for the Vikings. They dominated start to finish. They get 20 points from Davion Brunhuber. Bryce Hicks had a good game for Algonac with 18 points, but the Muskrats just couldn't get anything really going against the Vikings, who were pretty solid in this one. Marine City knocked off Richmond 62-50. It was close for a while, and then Marine City pulled away. E.J. Frighetto with 20 points in this one, 12 for Gage Towner for Richmond. So that set up Wednesday's semifinals, and the first game was a great ball game. Back and forth, lead changes, ties, controversy. The final was 62-60, Armada holding off Marysville in an absolute classic game. Dom Vasily scored 29 for Armada, and Davion Brunhuber had 30 for Marysville. At the end of the game, the Vikings didn't have any timeouts left. They scored a basket with just under 5 seconds to go, and Armada doesn't have to inbound the ball because they have 5 seconds to do it. So they just going to stand there and let the clock run out. A Marysville player tried to pick up the ball and intentionally get a delay of game technical to stop the clock, because your hope there is Armada misses at least one of the free throws and you at least have a shot to tie the ball game. And if they miss both free throws, you have a shot to win the ball game. But as I understand it, and talking to an official, the rule is if there's under 5 seconds to go, a team cannot deliberately get a technical to stop the clock. The official can't give it to them, and they didn't. Time ran out. Coach was upset about it. I guess there's some videos going around out there, coach screaming at the officials, but actually, if what I was told is true, the officials were right there and not calling the technical foul and letting the clock run out. Armada wins the game. St. Clair played Marine City in the second game, and it was Braylon Franz night. He scored 30 in this one and was just terrific. Had a dunk. St. Clair wins it 73-51. Johnny Hand did score 18 in his final game as a Mariner. He is graduating at the end of the school year. And that set up the final for Friday night. St. Clair Armada. I thought Armada would give them a decent game for a while, but the Saints pulled away in this one, won it by 20, 76-56, and St. Clair is headed to North Branch for the regionals, and again, we'll get to that in just a moment. Quickly, the other district games and how they went during the week. In Division 3, Mount Clemens beat Memphis 49-36 on Monday, but on Tuesday they were ousted by New Haven 53-46. I would have bet my house that New Haven would win this district, and had I done that, I'd be living in a van down by the river, because New Haven actually lost in the finals to Centerline Prep in overtime, 58-52, and I never even heard of Centerline Prep before this district. I don't know how this happened. New Haven had a good basketball team this year. Anyways, Marlette beats Landmark Academy 60-24 on Monday, but are ousted by Sandusky on Wednesday, 58-36, while Capac beat Brown City 59-45, setting up the final there between Sandusky and Capac, which the Wolves win 58-44. Sandusky is on to the regionals. Harbor Beach beat USA Wednesday night 69-36, and then they took out Cass City 52-34. So Beach moves on to a regional. It was Dryden beating Mayville 56-34 on Monday, while Flint Beecher knocked off Peck 51-42. Dryden then beat Kimball New Life Wednesday, while Beecher was beaten by Kingston, and that set up the final. Kingston beating Dryden 62-52. Kingston's moving on to a regional that Cardinal Mooney will be at, because I would have bet my house that Mooney would win this district, and I'd be living comfortably because Mooney rolled. First off, Parkway Christian beat New Haven Merritt 56-53, and when they struggled with Merritt, I kind of figured Mooney was a shoe-in here. They beat Pontiac Excellence 75-50, and then they beat Parkway Christian even worse, 76-42. Over to D4, Akron Fairgrove beat Carsonville Port Sanilac 60-44, and then they were promptly beaten by Ubley and knocked out of the postseason, while Deckerville took out Kindy North Huron on Wednesday 59-41. Ubley beats Deckerville 50-33 in the final, so Ubley moves on to the regionals. So there are three regionals really that we're following here. Starting in Division 2 at North Branch, Yale will play Goodrich, and St. Clair will play Detroit Country Day. Yale and St. Clair could meet in the finals, but in all honesty, they're going to be the underdog in both games. I think St. Clair has the better draw. I think Country Day is beatable. Everybody's telling me that Goodrich is a really good team and that Yale will really have to play a perfect ball game to beat them. We'll see what happens, but hopefully we can get both those teams through to the finals, which would guarantee an area team playing in a quarterfinal this year. In Division 3, Sandusky and Harbor Beach will play each other. The other side of the bracket is Reese and Flint International. Harbor Beach is the heavy favorite to win this regional and move on to the quarterfinals. And in Division 4, Marine City Cardinal Mooney will play Ubley, and Kingston will play Waterford Our Lady of the Lake. I think that Mooney and Kingston are the favorites to win their game, and then we would just see what the matchup is in the regional. Again, at least I've heard of all these teams. I haven't really followed all of these teams this season. Record-wise, Mooney's record isn't going to blow you away, but they're a good basketball team, and they play a lot of teams ahead of them in terms of size. So they play a tough schedule on purpose so that when they get to the playoffs and they start playing schools their own size, they're prepared to play really good basketball, and it usually works out for them very well. I would not be surprised if Mooney heads to a quarterfinal. They certainly have as good a chance, maybe not as Harbor Beach, but they have a good a chance as any of our other area teams to advance here. Again, St. Clair and Yale, probably the best two teams in our area. They just have the toughest draw. They're going to a regional where Goodrich and Country Day are two really good basketball teams. Let me turn my cheat sheet over. Before we get into the girls' districts, which begin tonight, want to wrap up a couple of notes from the regular season. Note number one happened back on last Tuesday. It was the BWAC championship game between Armada and Yale. If Yale won, they were the outright champs. And if Armada won, the two teams would share the title for the second year in a row. And this was a terrific basketball game. Again, it went back and forth with lead changes. It was tied up. It was tied up after 4 quarters. And then Valeria Ricosa hit this three-point shot. She's at the bottom of the screen. She knocks it down with 17 seconds left in overtime to give Armada the win, 50-47, and it gets them a share of the title. Ricosa finished with 20 points. Her sister Vivian, who's just a freshman, scored 17. Most of that while Val was in the locker room because she left the game about 2 minutes into the third quarter and didn't come back until there were under 4 minutes to go in the fourth, and gimping all the way because of what I think were cramps in both legs. But she came back from that and led the way for Armada to get the win and a share of the title. Super Sadie Dykstra did what she does and scored 28 in this game for Yale. But it's on to the playoffs now for both teams. They're going into separate districts, so the only way they could meet a third time this year is if it happens at the regionals. But we'll see what happens. On Thursday, most of the games are kind of meaningless, but there was one important note. In Port Huron High, 64-39 win over Croslex. Mariah Turner scored 29 points. When she got to point number 16, which happened on a three-pointer in the second quarter, she became the all-time single-season points leader in Port Huron High School history. Nobody had scored more than 429 points in a season until Mariah passed that mark. The old mark was set in 1997 by Keisha Bradford. And to show you how old I am, yeah, I did games that Keisha played in, and I remember her very well. She was George Popa's favorite player at PH at the time, and for good reason. She could score. All right, so on to the playoffs, which start tonight. Port Huron Northern takes on L'Anse Creuse North. That game is at Dakota. The winner will get Anchor Bay, who is the number 1 seed and the favorite in that district, Wednesday. And then also on Wednesday, PH will play Dakota. Over at Marysville this week, Marine City plays Algonac tonight. The winner of that game will play St. Clair on Wednesday. And Marysville plays Richmond tonight. The winner of that game will play Armada on Wednesday. At Yale, North Branch plays Elmont tonight. The winner of that game gets to play Yale. On the other side of the bracket, Wednesday night is Croslex against Imlay City. In D3, Bad Axe plays Harbor Beach tonight. The winner gets Cass City. The tournament up in Brown City doesn't start until Wednesday. I believe it's Brown City. I didn't write it down. I should have. Sandusky plays Memphis. Brown City plays Marlette. Those games aren't until Wednesday. They don't have an extra team there, so they don't need a Monday night game. Mount Clemens and New Haven tonight at New Haven. The winner gets Rochester Lutheran Northwest. That's a mouthful. That's on Wednesday. In D4, Austin Catholic plays New Haven Merritt. The winner will play Parkway Christian. The other side of the bracket is Marine City Cardinal Mooney against Bloomfield Hills Sacred Heart. That's on Wednesday. Those games are at Cardinal Mooney. And finally, the final district we're going to mention, CPS plays North Huron tonight. The winner will play Deckerville on Wednesday. The other Wednesday matchup is Ubley against Peck. And the ladies' regionals, of course, will take place next week once we sort out the districts this week. And that gets you all caught up on what's going on. I'm Dennis Stuckey. Thanks for watching.